Welcome to Beyond the Ridge, Seminary Ridge Museum and Education Center's web series, bringing you interesting stories of race, religion, medicine, and war from the 19th century and beyond. My name is Codie Eash. I serve as Director of Education and Museum Operations. I'm here on a beautiful April day at Riverview Cemetery in Huntingdon, Pennsylvania, so a bit northwest of Gettysburg. And I'm in this cemetery because there's a connection that we can make between three people who were at the Seminary Hospital, between a patient, the person who brought him in, and the patient's brother who assists him as an aide, as a nurse at the Seminary Hospital. So I just want to, kind of touch on this briefly, how we can make these really fascinating connections to places like Gettysburg, to places like the Lutheran Seminary, and specifically the Seminary Hospital. You can see, of course, behind me, this wonderful view that we have atop this hill here at Riverview Cemetery in Huntingdon, overlooking the Juniata River and the town of Huntingdon itself. I'm going to turn around my camera and take a look at a couple of these graves we can make connections. So here we are at the grave of Levi Graham. As you can see, he served in Company I, 149th Pennsylvania Volunteer Infantry, part of the famed Bucktails, under the command of Colonel Roy Stone at Gettysburg, July 1st, 1863. And Graham, though he himself was not wounded, was captured, bringing in a wounded comrade to the Seminary Hospital on the afternoon of July 1st, 1863. And we'll go to that grave here in just a moment, give you a little bit of a hint here. It's that obelisk that we can see a few rows away there in the distance. Captain Brice Blair. We'll go to his grave momentarily. Graham is interesting in the fact that in addition to taking this wounded comrade into the Seminary Hospital, it is also he who is responsible for writing the only eyewitness account we have that suggests that Confederate Commanding Officer Robert E. Lee apparently went to the seminary cupola. Now you can see he died in July 1909, 46 years after the battle. His account comes from a Huntingdon, Pennsylvania newspaper, so from his hometown here, and it's published not long before his death. So we're approaching that 50th anniversary of the battle, and so there's somewhat of a dispute as to whether he in fact did actually see Lee in the Seminary Hospital. But he gives us some really interesting things about the seminary in addition to that, and we're going to kind of narrate as we walk through this rather picturesque cemetery here at Riverview. You can see another nice landscape in the distance there. The leaves aren't quite on the trees yet, but this beautiful central Pennsylvania landscape. He tells us some interesting structural things, does Levi Graham, about the seminary building itself. And as he is conveying the man whose grave we're going to here in a moment into the Seminary Hospital, he says that the wooden stairs on the back side of the seminary building are nearly shot away. And that would be today where the Peace Portico is located, giving us a sense of what exactly was there at the time of the Battle of Gettysburg, not the ornate structure that we see now dedicated in 1914, but rather something a little more simple that would have been on that western entrance. So here we're approaching one of a few plots to the Blair family. It was a little difficult to try to track down precisely where each of these graves was. They're a bit spread out here on the top of the hill. But we can see Amanda C. Blair, who would be the wife of the soldier mentioned on the other side here, Captain Brice X. Blair. And as you can see, he's a captain in Company I, 149th Pennsylvania. We can see his battle honors there. The fact that he is approaching his 43rd birthday there in July 1863 at Gettysburg, but marked by his grave was pretty easy to find because it's one of the few obelisks, at least of this size, that we can see here in this cemetery. But here is his proper headstone with the GAR medallion that is just next to it, marking his service to the United States during the American Civil War. So we have the man who brought Blair into the Seminary Hospital, where we just were a few rows away, just to the left of that mausoleum structure in the distance there. Now we can come over here to Blair, and we're going to visit one more grave as we go along. Our executive director, Pete Mealy, was working on some research a few months ago, focusing on Gettysburg as a humanitarian crisis, the disease that spreads through the town, or might have already been in the town. If you were at a symposium, you know the depth of Pete's research on that topic. And he realized that there was a newspaper account that mentions the story of one David Blair, who comes to the seminary to look after his brother. And so we're going to walk over to the grave of David Blair and his family members who are buried here just a little bit away. We'll get a nice additional view of Huntingdon from this Riverview Cemetery, which is aptly named given the amount that we are able to see from this position. Now I have to admittedly retrack down. I think I know about where it was. Get some more views here of this cemetery, and there are a ton of military markers, especially Grand Army of the Republic markers here. We can see we're passing a handful right here. But really, one of these, immaculate old cemeteries that gives us such a nice repository of American service members. All right, here we go. It was a couple rows over. You can see this nice view once again. And we'll wrap up by just going over and visiting the grave here of David Blair, who, as I mentioned a bit ago, served as a nurse to his brother Brice when he was inside the Seminary Hospital. So that's here's the full family plot. And then his headstone itself, David Blair's, as well as his wife, Mary Howe Blair. Here's David, marked with the initials DB. And Mary Howe Blair, MHB, just next to him. And so here we can tie these together. You can see the car off in the distance there. That would be near the grave of Levi Graham. Can't quite see Brice Blair, but his obelisk would be off through the trees in that distance there. And then here his brother David. So we can tie together these three individuals, all the way from the person who brought a wounded soldier into the Seminary Hospital, the wounded soldier himself who did survive his wounds, and his brother who came to care for him. One of the ways we can use cemeteries across the American landscape to tie together Gettysburg, and in this case to tie these stories back to our Seminary Hospital, where our museum is today. So thanks for tuning in to another installment of Beyond the Ridge. This is Codie Eash, Director of Education and Museum Operations. We hope to see you on the ridge soon.